It started with an awakening, and it shifted and changed the fate of the franchise. And now, as it leaves, all it leaves is an echo. That probably sounded cooler in my head, but probably wasn't conveyed as well as I wanted it to be. But fuck it, I finally have beaten all the 3DS Fire Emblem games. Echoes took me the longest, which I was not expecting. So what this is my personal review of Echoes and how it compares to the rest of the 3DS games, because those are the only Fire Emblem games I played through entirely and beaten. And now when I say 3DS games, I'm including all three versions of Fates, not just Birthright or not just Conquest. I'm talking Birthright, Conquest, and Revelations. Now, before this review starts, just know I have not beaten Chapter 6 of fucking Echoes, because Chapter 6 is just a post-game thing, and it'll kind of get into my review, so let's just jump right into it. So, Echoes is very fucking different than your tradition, than what came before. If you were like me, who had always heard of Fire Emblem but never really jumped in and took Awakening as, you know what, fuck it, we need to finally give this series a try, gave it a try, and you became a part of that giant mass of new people who jumped into the franchise and caused it to be bolstered up to what it is now, because it's essentially like one of Nintendo. It's more of a second tier Nintendo franchise than the third tier it used to be. Because my God, we went from not hearing about Fire Emblem at all to fucking every year now. It's literally become yearly. Think about it. Fire Emblem Awakening came out in 2012 in Japan, came out in 2013 in America. I think we had like a little bit of a gap in 2014, but then fucking Fire Emblem Fates came out in 2015 in Japan, and then came out in 2016 for the US, and then on top of that, Tokyo Mirage Sessions came out in the middle of 2016, the summer of 2016. Then Echoes came out this year, and then we got Fire Emblem Warriors fucking near the end of this year, and then we also have Fire Emblem Switch coming in the future, which means we'll probably hear about it next year. Whether it comes out next year, I don't fucking know, because I would think it would take a while, because that's a brand new engine you're dealing with for a console game. But the point is, we've been getting Fire Emblem almost on a yearly basis at this point for the last, I want to say, 5 years, 4 or 5 years. So, Jesus. But anyways, so as someone who enjoyed Awakening, obviously that led me into Fates, which led me into Echoes. Now, if anyone's curious about my opinions of Fates and Awakening, I would probably arguably say I like Fates more than Awakening, but not all of Fates. Like, probably certain routes. I probably would say I like... Because to me, Awakening has aspects that I think was done better than Fates. And because Echoes is a remake of a game that was never released, or even not only never released in the US, but was never fucking localized, period. Hell, the version that most American fans that have played of that game are people who just emulated the fan translation and played that. From what I've heard and from what I understand, Gaiden, which is the game that Echoes is based off of, is a really old and dated game, and it's also a very experimental game that brought in a whole bunch of features that weren't repopularized until the Awakening games, and some features that have never been brought back and that are still in this game but somewhat modernized. So instead of kind of going through the whole, plot summary here, I'm going to it's more of a general ramble and discussion. Let's talk about the story, because I know that's the thing that seems to get the most praise, because it's like, wow, it's the best of the 3DS games. Not realizing that that's not really a super high bar, because I would still argue Echoes is fucking like safe as shit. It's still playing that whole... It's not like bad. It's just not overtly interesting. Like, a lot of people praise the story to death because of the characters and the full-on voice acting and the issues it brings up about status and nobility and do those things matter, whether you should have faith in the gods. There are a lot of cool things here in the story, which is why I don't call the story bad, but it's also really fucking basic. It's like basic old school anime plotline shit. There's nothing overtly interesting here, and in a lot of ways I would say the story is pretty fucking predictable and isn't as fleshed out as it should be. Spoilers, obviously. The game's been out for 2 months, so if you gave a damn, I'm warning you now. A few things I personally don't like, which I found out from other reviews and even things people have mentioned, I think Berkut is highly underused. Berkut is literally used like 3 times in the game. He's introduced, he has his second beat down, and then I think the third time is like the last time you see him. You literally only fight him 3 times in the game, and it's the one is in his introduction, and the 2 is his last fight. Also, what the fuck is the point of Reina? Reina serves no purpose other than be like bullshit plot exposition near the end of the game. And I don't mean like grand plot, I mean like to justify Berkut as a character. It's so fucking forced, and like, am I supposed to like, because for those who don't know, in Berkut, by the last Berkut fight, he essentially gives into the power of Duma. Is anyone fucking surprised? You shouldn't be. He made it real fucking obvious that was gonna happen. And that's what I'm talking about. It's really obvious plot shit. But he uses Reina as a sacrifice in order to gain the power, which turns her into like this fucking demon familiar. And I'm like, I know I should probably feel bad that she's like this, but I don't, because Reina isn't a character to me. Reina was a body that just fucking sat there for the majority of the game, and every time you saw, all you knew was that she cared about Berkut, but you never really understood why. I gave a shit more about Ferdinand than I did fucking Reina. And then you had people like Rudolph. Rudolph is introduced as the major villain, at least for Alm's side of the story, and the guy that we gotta go take down because his people are invading our country, and I'm not having that shit. And they did the same shit, I believe, I would argue they did in Fates, where they tried to make this dude sympathetic after you already beat him. Although I would argue Fates, at least Conquest, kind of showed hints of that during the plot line, whereas fucking the Rudolph stuff literally happens as you fight him and kill him. And then they want to dump all this bullshit ass exposition on you about how, and then and once again, it's shit that we already expected. Alm obviously is of royal blood. Okay, was that really fucking surprising considering the whole brand marks is on his and Celica's hand, as you kind of see in the game that Celica's name is Auntis and she's a princess and shit. Are you surprised that fucking Alm is a goddamn prince himself? Not really. Do I give a damn? And then and then Alm had the balls to say to Berkut near the end of the game, he's like, Rudolph cared for you like his own son. And you're like, how would you know? You're just literally just speaking out of conjecture. You literally just found out that you two were cousins, and that was your dad, like what? Like fucking 10, 15 minutes ago? I don't want to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear that shit. Berkut is like entertaining in like a comical way, but he's not really a developed villain. Same thing goes for Rudolph. It's that whole, I did something bad for the sake of doing something good in the long run, but because nobody knows, I'll never be loved or respected for it. But I'm like, but there was nothing in the game to make you interesting as a villain. I didn't give a damn if that was what you were doing, because you were never shown much. He's another character who wasn't really pushed much. So it's like, do I give the villain I saw the most of was Jeddah, and Jeddah is just stereotypically evil. It's like, oh look, I'm the evil demon. I'm here to serve the will of Duma. And then through the 2 routes, you know, it feels literally like Fates in a way, where you have the 2 routes for Alm and Celica, where Alm is doing the most logical thing you could do in these situations, and Celica goes from having like a noble purpose and trying to do the right thing to kind of just devolving into this fucking martyr mission. The other thing that makes Celica seems worse as a character is that Alm is doing things for the sake of not only his people of, I'm trying to think, it's not Valentia. Valentia is the name of the whole continent. What the fuck is the name of his? Zofia, there we go. He's doing shit for Zofia and just trying to push back Rigel. And like everything he does is not only for the sake of himself and his friends, but like everybody. Whereas Celica, after a certain point in the game, it just devolves into all I give a damn about is saving Alm's life. Like, literally, some of the decisions she makes are purely based on Now, obviously, she does mention casually, like, well, the land will dry up if we don't appease Duma and shit. But it's like Saga, you're supposed to be the smart one in this situation, and you just look like a dumbass who spent the whole time going, I don't want him to die. Well, yeah, but you're putting him in a shitty position by having him have to come worry about you and rescue you. Can handle himself. It's like you don't have any faith in the dude. It's ridiculous. The story has too many issues with its characters, especially as its fucking villains. The villains are just inoffensive. Like, that's the reason why people don't mind them as much as characters like Grima or fucking Anankos. You don't mind them as much. You don't mind those guys as much as Awakening and Fate's villains, because Awakenings and Fate's villains actively pissed you off, whereas these guys are just kind of doing the bare minimum of being villains. And as I said, they're comically evil, so they have some level of appeal. But I don't inherently believe them to be that much better. They're just not. They just don't do anything to piss you off. That's literally all it is. Then we get into mechanics, which is where I think the game really shines. You can kind of tell this game is a completely different beast than Awakening and Fates. The way I look at Echoes is that Echoes is more for the strategic types, and Awakening and Fates are for the RPG fanboys and fangirls. In the sense that Fates and Awakening were all focused on grinding levels, switching classes, gaining skills, switching out weapons, all this shit. Whereas, like, most of Echoes' main combat and setup is more based around, it's a numbers game. That's the whole thing I remember playing the game. I just remember crunching numbers. Like, can I hit? Can I not hit? Is it worth taking the risk? Will I have enough HP because of the whole magic users losing HP thing? A lot of this stuff I went over in my second thoughts, and I like the game for that. Even the whole, they can only carry one item and shit. That's fine because it's kind of a give and take. And that's part of the reason why the fatigue system doesn't piss me off in this game. It's slightly annoying, but it was never one of those things where I was like, fuck it, I can't stand this shit. It's slightly annoying for the obvious reason that it can get you killed, but it wasn't like it fucked you, but it was pretty generous. Because the general idea is that, okay, well, they can obviously only hold one weapon, and each weapon has a drawback, because if it's, the stronger it is, the heavier it is, meaning you move slower, but they have secondary skills you can unlock, which can be pretty useful depending on the situation. Whereas if you have the food with you, if you were ever in a situation where you're backed into a corner and you can't get to or Celica or someone else who has food, you could easily lose all your fucking stamina, get fatigued, and be fucked dealing with half health because you can't get your health any higher because you're fucking fatigued. Like, I like that concept. So I have no problem with the combat system for Echoes for the most part. But the one thing I do have a problem with, and people need to be honest with themselves, I fucking hate the map design in this game. It is so fucking boring. And it's even worse when you're coming from Fates to this game. Because Fates, say what you will about Fates, but Fates at points had really creative level design and interesting maps. This game literally puts you in like wide open spaces with like a single concept that the ground can hurt you and it's a pain in the ass to trudge through the game, which kind of gets into the overarching issue I have with Fates. Fates drags. It drags, dude. And it's not like, and it's weird because it's not like offensively dragging where I don't want to finish the game, but it's dragging enough to where I'm starting to notice that I'm like, shit, I'm still playing this game. It's one of the reasons why I don't think I'll ever go back to the post game. Because, okay, cool, I like aspects of Echoes, and it's not like I regret playing the game, but it is easily my least favorite of the three. Because even though Awakening is broken and fucking stupid with some of its level design and just other aspects of the game, I can play through Awakening multiple times and never get tired of it. But again, Echoes, it's literally I go through once and I'm like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. Because, it's funny, it's not even like one major thing that kills it. It's a whole bunch of small things. The fact that the maps are fucking pretty basic and bland, that's one issue. The second issue is that there isn't that much variety when it comes to changing classes. That's why I say this game is more for strategics and not for RPG fans. Because RPG fans like variety. We like the fact that we can switch into 6 or 7 different classes and all our characters don't feel like fucking clones of each other. Whereas in fucking Echoes, I think unless you're a villager, you're literally just upgrading your class. And because of the stupid stat growth in this game, it never really feels like you're gaining anything by grinding. Like you raise up you feel like you gain more raising up a level than switching classes, which makes you not really care about doing it as much. On top of the fact that to switch classes, you have to go to a Miller statue, which is in a dungeon. I don't mind dungeon crawling. The dungeon crawling is fine. You know what hurts the dungeon crawling in this game? A few things. The first fucking thing, the running controls are wonky as shit. So you can't just, at a certain point, you're going to want to duck enemies. But once again, it's a minor inconvenience. The other issue is that Miller statues are usually, now, depending on the dungeon, it's weird. The dungeons actually have a pretty decent sense of variety, but the fucking maps don't. What kind of shit is that? Then they have the whole setup where you can't take your whole team in. You can only take 10 of your units in there. And I get the reason why. The reason why is because they know battles would drag if you were able to bring in full 20 something of your characters in there, and then you're fighting enemies. 10, they know exactly how many you should have in this bitch and how many you're dealing with, so they only bring out 10 enemies. But that's the other problem. There's not that much variety in the enemies. You're running across like the same, I want to say 5 enemy types in this game. It's just like, I don't fucking care. It's just kind of, it's bland. I mean, that's what it is. It's fucking bland. It's like, oh, here comes another one of those I don't even remember their names. It's like, it's the same witch shit. And then the fact that, like, a lot of the enemy AI kind of devolves into a similar setup where they all want to either swarm you or the fucking witches. There are so many enemies in this game, and it's weird because there's not. But it feels like there's so many times in this game where you'll run across a fucking group of enemies, and one of them happens to have the ability to conjure. And what happens? That motherfucker's all the way in the back, so you gotta trudge through his fucking hordes of enemies he's constantly throwing at you. And when they're witches in an early game, that shit sucks. Witches in this game suck. Fucking hate them. God. Dread fighters. When you're fighting dread fighters for the first time, those motherfuckers suck. And to me, they're borderline broken in the game because of, it's like, well, look, their whole thing is that they're really strong against magic users. But their attack power is pretty fucking good too. They usually have high speed, which means they can double hit you. And their fucking ability cuts magic attacks in half. Their resistance is the lowest thing in terms of defense, between defense and resistance. Their resistance is the lowest. But they have 2 abilities they gain when they become dread fighters. You automatically get +5 to your resistance, and you get to have magical attacks. Why do that? It's fun to use on your side, but when you're fighting the son of a bitches, it's like, well, the game is implying that you should use magic against them, but you shouldn't, because you won't be able to do much damage. You have a set amount of damage you'll always do to those bastards. So it's like, well, fuck it. I guess I'm going to have to strong arm you then. And I know it sounds like I hate every aspect of the game. I don't hate every aspect. This is just small things that just start to get on my nerves. The map design is actually pretty bad. And I haven't even talked about the support conversations, dude. Look, I understand that Fates went overboard on the support conversations, and as a result, a lot of them seem like a fucking waste of time. Unlike Awakening, that even though Awakening had some throwaway ones, Awakening was nowhere near this fucking bad with its fucking support conversations in comparison to Fates. And then you get to Echoes. Now, Echoes decided to go the minimalist approach, but it makes it even worse in my opinion. First off, the bonus you get is that your hit rate slightly increases and your crit rate slightly increases. Now, some of you would say, well, considering how wonky the fucking hit and miss rate in this game is, that would be great. Well, the problem is that a wonky hit and miss rate in this game, it don't matter what the fuck your fucking hit and miss rate is, because that shit can go all over the goddamn place. So it doesn't mean much in this game for me to get a slight boost to my fucking hit and crit rate. And I didn't see that much of a difference for me personally, when I did it. The only time it felt like it was different, depending on the character, like when goes from like a 29 crit bonus to a fucking 40. That's kind of cool, but then again, was already critting motherfuckers pretty early in the game anyway. and Celica crit rates are the highest in the game, I believe. So it's like, it's not that big of a fucking deal. The reason why I did the fucking support conversations is because I wanted to get to know the characters. And I'm going to admit, there are some pretty consistently good ones in here. I like Jenny and Sonya's. I like Delphia's and Claire's. I get what they're going with Luthier's and Delphia's, but I'm not super into it. I like Forsyth's and Python's. I like Lucas and Clive's. I like Faye and Silk's. I like Gray and Claire's. I think I may have repeated that one. I like Tobin and Cliff's. I like Saber and Jesse's. I like Leon and Valbar's. Like, most of them I like. But then you have some that are just fucking, like, pointless throwaway. One of the best, I think one of the worst ones are probably the married couples. Like, so, Clive and Matilda's one. That shit could have... It's literally just them goo-goo gagaing over each other for fucking 3 supports. It's a fucking waste of time. And a lot of them don't even amount to much in the grand scheme of things. Especially when you get to the ending and you know how they do the whole, let me tell you what happened after the war. If you were a fan of Sonya, that ending sucks in what it implies. Now, if you're smart, you can realize there might be a loophole there. But what the ending is directly implying fucking sucks for Sonya. But that's a different story. But the biggest issue is that, and the weird thing is that they get bonuses from characters they don't do support conversations with. For example, Leon does support conversations with Kamui and Valbar, but Kamui can't do support conversations with Valbar, but he can get a bonus by being next to Valbar. Why the fuck can I do support conversations? Most of these characters are limited to like 2 already, so why not give me, especially those characters, the ones that were grouped together? You get Valbar, Leon, and fucking Kamui in the same goddamn chapter. And for some reason, only Leon can support with everybody, whereas fucking Valbar, I think, can only support with Leon, and Kamui can only support with Leon. Why the fuck would you do that? Valbar and Kamui are right there, damn it. And you're gonna give me a bonus. I think it's the same thing for Tobin. Like, Tobin can support, I believe Tobin can support with Cliff and Gray, but Gray can't support with Cliff. Why the fuck not? Now, I know Faye is supposed to be an original character, but it's the same thing. Faye can only support with Silk and but she can't support with her other village friends? What the fuck? And then Claire's is even the weirder one to me. I think Claire only can support with Gray and Delphia, even though her fucking brother is on the goddamn squad. But I can't support with Clive? What the fuck? And then you got characters like Luthier who can only support with fucking his sister. That's it. Nobody else. Saber can't even support with anyone until Jesse's introduced. And that's it. He can only support with Jesse. Why in the fuck do that? You know what pisses me off even more? If you look up the endings, Kamui's ending implies that he goes into the same village as like Saber and Jesse are at, but Kamui can't support with those characters. Why do that? It's so fucking stupid. I hate it because I like the designs of the characters. I like some of their personalities, and I think a lot of them have good conversations. Some of them got just throwaway conversations that can go eat a bag of dicks and don't mean any fucking thing. And then this shit where like some of them just can't support with other friends, which doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's so fucking stupid. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a real army that's moving as a team, because you have them all feeling disjointed where they all have these separate little relationships. And I understand there are cliques, but the one thing I'll give Fates and Awakening for is that their army felt like a close group army because you could support with mainly everybody. In this game, it just feels like a whole bunch of fucking nobodies just happen to align with each other. Same thing, you got characters like Atlas. The same thing, Atlas comes in, and Atlas can only support with Celica. Well, why the fuck can you do that? And what makes it even worse is that you have characters like Saber, who has all these little cutscene and interactions with Celica throughout the story, and he can't support with Celica. Why do that? It's so fucking stupid. I hate it. I hate it, dude. That was probably the most offensive thing for me personally, because it was just like, it was such a dumb thing. It's like the bonus wasn't great, and you couldn't even support with all the characters that it made sense to support to. It's like, so this game is missing not only it has a decent quality of support conversations. Like the quality of the support conversations is alright, but there aren't enough of them, and they're not fucking consistent. So it's like, I don't give a damn. So the game literally has nothing for me to go back and replay. Because I think the story is kind of, whatever. The level design is fucking bland. I think the level design is the absolute worst. Out of everything I've mentioned, the level design for Echoes to me is fucking sucks. Because all the maps blend together and it feels like they're reusing maps at points. It's just like, Jesus. The characters are fun and interesting, but I never get to know them more than like the one or two support trees they got. So it's just not as appealing. Although I will always rep Delphia and Claire and Sonia and Matilda and Lucas. I don't know why I like Lucas. Lucas just comes off as one of them dudes I just get along with because of his very chill nature. Python too, actually. Like I said, I remember all the characters' names, so it's not like the characters were bland and I don't remember them. It's just they don't have enough support conversations. Fuck. If this is more of a representation of how old school Fire Emblem worked, I can see why there was a lot of people who just didn't really get into it. I mean, which will go into another video I'll make later, but you know, it's just and it's weird because I don't hate Echoes. I don't think it's a terrible game. I probably would if I had to be fair about it, I probably would give it like a 6 or a 7. Like, it's fine. It's nothing overly offensive, and I don't think it's bad. It just has a lot of dumb little aspects about it that I don't care for. Which makes me not want to play it again. Well, not anytime soon, I'll say that. Whereas I went back and I started replaying. Actually, I replayed Awakening twice, and then I fucking started to replay Fates. I have no interest in replaying fucking... I have, like, none. No interest in replaying fucking, Echoes at all. Not anytime soon. That's also because I'm just firing them out. Plus, we got Fire Emblem Warriors to look forward to. So I think it's an okay game, but it's definitely my least favorite of the 3DS games. If I had to rank it, and it's hard because Awakening and Fates are the ones I'm conflicted with the most. I probably would say overall, I like Fates more, but there are definitely aspects of Awakening that are better. I think Echoes, the best thing about Echoes is its gameplay. I think that's literally my favorite thing. The problem is the fucking maps suck. If the maps didn't suck and they had more support conversations, I can bypass story shit. The dungeon crawling's slightly annoying, but dude, it's that map design and lack of support conversations. That's all I fucking needed you to do. A little bit better, I would have totally went back into this game. But the game feels like it drags. The villains are not that interesting. I don't think, I mean, it's just kind of mediocre for me. And that's just me personally. And as I said, I'm the guy who got into Fire Emblem during the waifu period. So I might be full of shit. But that's just my fucking opinion. Tell me yours. And if you sat through this whole fucking review, type in Claire is Bae, May is Bae, Bowie is G, Jesse is G, Kamui is my motherfucking ninja. And thank you guys for watching. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Loves the game, play to win, and thank you for putting up with this 30-minute fucking Fire Emblem Echoes review. Bye! I wonder how many of you will get through this.